up, and welcome to another episode of Black in the Maritimes. I'm Fidel,
I'm Hillary.
I'm Clinton.
and we're gonna start with a show and tell. So this is high school or middle school or preschool. So Hillary has a show and tell, and we don't, but she has one, so it's show and tell. So what do you got?
I feel like you just spent that whole intro calling me childish, but I'm gonna ignore that and go into my show and tell. Some people listening may know that I have a very expansive salt and pepper shaker collection. There's over 400 pairs. The first pair is from the 1930s. They were my great grandmother's from Memram Cook, who gave them to my mom because my great grandmother raised my mom. And then eventually they got passed down to me. Today, I decided to start trying to decorate for Christmas, figuring it out in the new apartment. And I remembered that I had a series of salt and pepper shaker collections that were Christmas themed. I did not find them, but I did find racist ones, and I thought I would bring them. So I knew that I used to have like minstrel vibe ones, and I couldn't find that one, but I do definitely have like a black Aunt Jemima. So if you're watching the podcast, you'll be able to see it, but it's like blackface little old ladies who are chefs. And I think that these are racist. They're also from Curacao. Is that a place? I thought it was just a liquor.
No. Curacao is an island. Of course, it's a place.
Hey, sorry, I've gone as far west as Toronto and as far east as Italy, and nowhere further like south or north.
Oh,
just straight across. But anyway, yes, this is my show and tell. These are part of my collection. I think I have to give these away now or throw them out because they go against what I stand for, I suppose, as a person.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. It is the black face on it. It's kind of it is kind of disturbing. Again, there's a lot of African art that has a lot of blackface on it, depending on where it is, especially in the West Indies, which hopefully in the near future we'll start saying something about black art, which is something that I've been kind of working on. But I mean, yeah, I guess if you I feel uncomfortable watching them, but there could be a piece of art. So
I guess that's the question. How uncomfortable does it make you feel? Because something like that, you got to ask, like, where is it from? Who made it? What purpose was it made for? Did it support a Black family's life down in Curacao? It seems really racist to me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. So like Fidel said, that's probably an indicator to not give it away, but maybe smash it or throw it out.
I mean, if a white person would have it, I would be kind of upset. But
which is why, so they're one of the few pairs that like don't have a label on the bottom as to who gifted them to who. But regardless, it's either my white mother or my white cousin who had them. And so it's weird for me to think that my white mother, who then, birthed a black baby, just had these chilling in a cabinet. I may bring this up on our Thursday call, but as we know, she's got dementia. So she might be like, I don't know where those came from or who they belong to. So who's to say?
I mean, I think we all drank that Aunt Jemima syrup with our pancakes. I remember seeing it sitting on the table, and something's wrong, but it wasn't the same social era of being able to communicate that around the world and agree on it. So, to your mom and whoever else's credit, wrong, but it may have been okay back then, and now you should definitely get rid of it.
I'm gonna keep it here and quiz her on it Thursday, and I'll come back with answers. But that's my show and tell. I had racism in my own home. Not only is it internalized, but it was hiding in the closet.
That's quite a show and tell, actually. I gotta say. But thank you for that. I mean, that's quite interesting. I guess when you have art like that or stuff like that, people do your research because it might feel offensive to some people. Like who knows. Speaking of that, I will do a quick recommendation, which I think we need to start doing black recommendations. Maybe we'll talk about it behind the scenes. But for people that haven't, please watch the Kanye West Drink Champs interview. It is hilarious. Kanye goes off the rails. So
I saw a clip of it and I was so unimpressed that I was just like, no.
Well,
what is it?
it's an interview that Kanye West did in a podcast called Drink Champs. Drink Champs it's like a hip hop. It's the premier hip hop podcast right now. It's where all the hip hop stars go and get interviewed, and it's like a long 3 hour interview. So there's everybody from, I don't know, from Q-Tip to Busta Rhymes to Puff Daddy to Birdman to anybody that's been relevant in hip hop has been in that podcast. And Kanye went, and Kanye was Kanye, like literally.
He was yay. He wasn't even
He was
Kanye.
yeah, he was
Yay.
literally him, and it's quite amazing how somebody is able to live the life he lives, because it's
Very
So you gotta
brief.
post it on the page, but someone, yeah, give us the Coles notes.
I just want to say briefly that the main clip that I saw that I thought was really confusing was him saying that something about mental illness being real. And then it cut to a clip of him talking about his new whack haircut. And he was like, oh, I thought I'd get the Britney. And I'm like, how are you talking about your own mental illness in this way? And then you're comparing your shaved head to when Britney Spears shaved her head in 2007, which was also a mental health crisis. Like, it was just so, there was such a disconnect between him being able to be empathetic with other people, but him asking for empathy about himself. But I did not watch the whole thing. So this is just an observation off of a one clip.
You have to watch it, because I mean, and that's not even that's just a clip, and it's I think because of the editing, it's just taken out of context, but that's not even the relevant. He says the biggest regret in his life was signing Big Sean and John Legend. Like, he goes off on them. He really goes off on them. He goes off on Talia Kweli. He goes off on. He goes like, literally, he went off on a couple of people that I was like, whoa. uh, However, I gotta give it to him. He is a creative genius. He does give some good gems there as well, which I definitely recommend it, because he says a lot of stupid shit too. Like, don't get me wrong, he says a lot of stupid shit too. However, he says a couple of things that are pretty relevant, and I think people should watch it if they have the time. It's quite long, and it's quite entertaining, because he goes off on a couple of people that I'm like, whoa, this guy is definitely, he has mental health issues, and I think he took his medication, but he was smoking weed and drinking liquor, so I think that went off. I don't think that was a good recommendation, but again, that is my recommendation, uh, that I will say. So again, we're gonna go with a couple of topics now. The topics that we go
Now to the podcast.
exactly now to the podcast. We had show and tell. We had recommendations. We
Yes.
might do those segments. Who knows? What the fuck is going on in New Brunswick? I've been out of there for a while. What the fuck is happening there? So please, Clinton,
Wild.
enlighten me. What the hell is happening?
I haven't followed much over the weekend, but last week Friday, the CUPE union workers went on strike. So among like all the crazy COVID stuff we already have to deal with, the circuit breaker and everyone else. Now the schools are closed. There's no janitorial services. Nurses were striking. The blood work clinics are closed. Teachers' assistants, and I think I'm missing out a few. But yeah, the streets are littered with people like protesting and on strike, signs down Champlain Street. I think busloads and busloads of people broke our circuit breaker. And for anyone who doesn't know that, these are like zones within New Brunswick where you're not allowed to travel to see anyone. Um, so you can't go see like your friend down the street, but you can leave the province, no problem. You can go to Curacao to get some blackface pepper shakers. You can go to go to PEI. You can go anywhere and come back and not have to self-isolate, but you can't go down the street. Anyway, so they broke the circuit breaker, went to Fredericton, protested outside of there. And it's turning into an all-out war. Higgs did mandate strikers back to work under the Emergency Measures Act. So he wouldn't have been able to do this had it not been for COVID. Cardi pulled some kind of a weird thing the day of the strike where the government announced a strike, but Cardi sent out an email telling people to go to work. When they showed up for work, they were then laid off. and so they didn't get the mandatory strike money that they're supposed to get within the union for being on strike. So 47% of the workers, like, yeah, they crafted that, Hillary. They it was a scam that sorry, I lost my train of thought. Basically, he screwed about 50% of the strikers out of their contractual strike pay, and then he mandated them back to work under the Emergency Measures Act. Uh, there was an offer put on the table on Friday, is my understanding. I don't think that's been accepted, but the cases are still high. And oh, last thing, if y'all didn't know, so the all party COVID committee, Roger Melanson stepped down from the committee, the Liberal leader. David Kuhn stepped down from the committee. They're saying this is all Higgs' fault. We don't want anything to do with this. I'm not sure if any other members stepped away from the party, but you're not kidding. It's a bit of a cluster, you know what? And New Brunswick's a bit wild right now.
Holy shit. I mean, I know the kids are not at school, parents are out of
Mhm.
their fucking minds because a lot of.
Oh, and oddly enough, sorry, this is the last
How
thing.
is
So this
there
strike
more?
thing, there is a little bit more. So this strike thing is working because conveniently the COVID packs that the New Brunswick education system sent home for kids to be able to do online learning from home in the event of COVID is now being used for the strike.
And I have seen several like parents and teachers on my social media sort of saying like if you really wanted to help out, you would take this time to just, put on Paw Patrol and not use those packs because those packs are still giving them what they want
Less
essentially.
pressure for them to give in to make
Yes,
the kids go back to school because
exactly.
they're still getting an education
Yeah.
and the schools are closed.
Yeah, no. So I've seen lots of
So
posts that
that
are
just
sort of
adds
like,
some leverage to the
yeah,
Higgs government right now to not have to end this because the kids they're in school. They're in school at home, just like with COVID. So
yeah,
there's not that pressure to end the strike. The parents aren't screaming like they normally would be if we weren't in this COVID circuit breaker and just COVID in general.
yeah.
So that's the last thing because that's relevant. Um, so what were you saying, Fidel?
I mean, again, if you listen to this podcast, you know that we're not a fan of Blaine Hicks for his racist, uh, you know, racist actions, we would say. Now,
Putting it nicely.
yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
was gonna say his racist dumb ass like
well,
actions.
I think the fact that is that one of the things that we try to educate in this podcast is that racism comes in different shapes and forms, right? There's accidental racism, there is systemic racism, there's different types of racism. I mean, if Blaine Higgs was a guy, an old man, in his house, and he might not even care about black people, but that doesn't make him racist. He might not even have a freedom of thought, but he's the premier of the province, and he does a lot of racist actions and in towards systemic racism. So not necessarily particular for him, just the government that he runs, right? So that's why I would say that. So we're not a fan of him. Technically we're not a fan because of his actions. However, this is way, like, I think he knocked it out of the park with this clusterfuck. Like, he has never done something so bad than this. like literally everybody's pissed off. Uh and nothing is working. People are not working on a poor province that people need to work. And these are government jobs. These are like the safe, secure jobs that people uh kind of grab about, and the unions and all that crap. And now we gave this guy a majority, and we all knew it was a power grab. But people, and those people that gave him a majority now, they're like, fuck this guy. So
Mm-hmm.
it is quite, again, I'm not in New Brunswick right now. I should be back to the cold soon. uh but it is quite amazing that this guy has been able to do all this shit in so little time. It is quite ridiculous. So I mean, Hillary, you're in Ontario, which you have your own clusterfuck with Doc Ford, that he's been trying to just be out, just he's been trying to hide because of all the shit that he has done. Uh,
Yeah.
is this a part of a conservative? I don't think it is, but is it part of the conservative governments that this again? This is happens in Alberta, it happened in Ontario, and now it's happening to us in New Brunswick, right? So it's like it's just the fact that is this a conservative government type of way, or is it just the people that are leading that they're a bunch of assholes?
Oh, that's a tough question because I think sort of both, because like Dougie Ford definitely an asshat, but also does not really know how to lead this province through a pandemic. I It's frustrating because it's like you said, I have disliked Blaine this entire time. To see him get voted back in, I was a little bit like, you've made a terrible mistake, whoever voted for him, and this is not that this is like what you get or the consequences of those actions, but this is clearly not a good thing. I definitely am. I'm someone who would vote either Liberal or NDP and would hope that these things wouldn't happen. As much as like we can blame a party, and it's like, well, I'm sure there are people in the Conservative Party that this wouldn't be happening to, but like this is also someone who only raised minimum wage of 5 cents. Of course, he's not going to give these people money or the demands that they want. He's proven time and time again that he doesn't care about the people who lead the country, except for the Irvings. He only cares about the Irvings. So I don't know. A lot of people have said that like the best way to protest this is not only that, but to hit the Irvings where it would hurt them and avoid, using their paper products, using their gas, etc. But it's like they're everywhere and they own everything. So does that work? I think Clinton is agreeing with me that no, it wouldn't work.
Unfortunately, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so like that I don't really have an answer. Like Blaine sucks, Doug sucks. Is it Jason Kenney sucks? Conservative Party, in my opinion, sucks. I don't know that these three are the only people that represent the party, but it's a bunch of bozos. I don't think that they treat the people in those provinces well. Clinton, what were you going to say?
Nothing. It's just not going to work. The Irvings have their hand in everything. Yeah. Like literally everything, and I don't even know everything they have their hand in, but just the gas alone. What are you going? You're not going to go to the Irving gas stations. It doesn't matter. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't every gas company in this province buy all of their fuel from Irving because that's where they get it for the best price within this particular province?
No, not really. How it works is that they own the refinery. So everything, in order for you to have your even if I'm a big corporation that's not Irving, right? Let's say Exxon or Shell or BP or whatever, right? In order for me to get my fuel needs to be refined to actually to get to the final consumer, and the only refinery in New Brunswick and most of Atlantic Canada are Irving. So pretty much everybody has to go through
They
that.
bring their crude oil into the province and they get it refined. So Irving gets a cut no matter what. So the punishment you could possibly do to them is so minimal.
Irving gets a cut no matter what. Blame Higgs.
That sounds like the kind of rap promotional video they'd put on.
But I think
standing in front of a forest, like a little blonde woman in front of a forest. Irving gets a cut no matter what.
In an aspect, I think again, and I can only speak for New Brunswick, and that's the reason why I ask, because I feel like in New Brunswick it doesn't matter if it's liberal or conservative or NDP or Green. Honestly, in New Brunswick, because I don't care what party. I think the problem with our system is that the people need to be aware of the system that they're at, and a lot of people don't know. It's easy to bitch and complain about a system, but when you don't know the system, it is very, very difficult to change it, and most of the people that are in New Brunswick don't understand how the system works. And that's why people like Irving or like McCain and anybody else can take advantage of it, because they know how it works, and they put it in their favor, and they kind of play with it in some sort, shape, or form. Again, this might be different in Alberta, Toronto, and in Manitoba or anywhere. But I think that's the thing with New Brunswick. I think the reason why I ask is because I don't know if, again, Blame Higgs is quite a character, honestly, and I don't know if the Liberals would have done any different. Maybe they would have, but it doesn't seem to be the case most of the time in this province.
No.
think I just find the Blaine, it's just it just continues to surmount. Like the COVID management at the beginning was sort of okay, and then it was like indigenous thing after indigenous thing, waiting for the commissioner on systemic racism, and now this and the 5 cents, and it's like it just hasn't stopped being bad thing after bad thing. It's just now finally, the whites are upset and they're on the street, and now maybe change will come because more people are affected, and I hope that they get what they deserve. I hope that everybody gets like proper fair wages. I know it's not only white people that are being affected by this, but I do feel like this does feel different, but he's such a bozo. I just don't like him.
I mean, the Higgs and the conservative government, they care. They don't care much about visible minorities, but they don't care much more about the white people either. It's if you're not
unless the white people are Irvings,
established, boys club family member.
Yeah. Do you golf? Maybe then they care.
Yeah, I think Blaine Higgs is just the image of the old white man in New Brunswick. I mean, if you see him, it's an old white man that has powers, and they run the things like they always run them before. I think that's just what it is at this point. Then we gave him a majority, so I mean, go ahead, Clinton.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, I finished my piece.
Well, we gave him a majority. Like, it's not a dictatorship here in New Brunswick, but it kind of is the way he swooped in, and like after 1 or 2 years, got another 4 years like locked in the bag. And I don't, vote of no confidence, then no one's going to vote him out. And if they try to, the Irvings control the media, and they're going to be able to flip it and spin it in a way where it doesn't happen. Like it's kind of like a dictatorship, and he's kind of behaving like an all-powerful dictator that doesn't have to worry about consequences.
But I feel like I will say this. I think we give too much credit to the Irvings when it comes to Higgs. I think, and this is a personal thought, I think it's not really Blaine Higgs himself. I think that the main thing that we have to look at is like, if we have this guy X, in this case his name is Blaine Higgs, but let's just say it would have been a random person. If it would have been the X, I think people need to think, how do we get this guy out of there if he's not getting him? Like the easiest way, and this is and whoever's listening, if you live in a small village that a conservative is governing, Blaine Higgs only has a majority by one person, right? Just one person. He has 27 seats. If you take one out, he literally automatically has a minority. All that people have to do is that one conservative MP has to say, I'm out of this party, I'm out, and that's it. They can do a vote of no confidence. That's as easy as it could get. And I think that's what the problem. I think we give the Irvings too much credit when we kind of have like the power and the ways to do it. But again, most people wouldn't even know how to do it, right? I think that's one of the things that we have to be careful about. Like if we, and one of the things that Blaine Higgs did is that it was supposed to be his speech, and he canceled it, which is where you actually have the vote of no confidence. So there's still time to do it, but again, nobody's going to do it, right? But it's I think, like I said, I think we need to learn as a community. We need to learn how do we get the system in our way, and I think that's how things will start changing. So, anyways, fuck you, Blaine Higgs. It is what it is.
I second that motion.
It is what it is.
A third. Doesn't need a third to be carried forward, but
yeah, it is. It is what it is.